Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It is me, your favorite scientist, Bob Nye. Thank you all for joining us on this afternoon. We have quite the show scheduled for you guys. We're going to be learning about atomic bombs.
Bonds!
Atomic bonds. As always, I'll be joined by my wonderful host, Tyler, with our friend Aiden leading demonstrations. Now, without further ado, let us get started.
Yeah, blink. So, yeah.
Our first topic will be the valence electrons. Now, tell me, Tyler, what are valence electrons?
Okay. Valence electrons are electrons on the outermost energy level of the atom. Just like your typical electron, all valence electrons have a negative charge. An energy level can only hold a maximum of 8 electrons, and atoms really don't like to have extra valence electrons floating around. They try to either lose some electrons or gain some electrons by bonding so they can be nice and stable. Because of this, atoms in group 1 and 17, due to the fact that they have either 1 or 7 valence electrons, are the most reactive.
Valence electrons are also responsible for atoms' chemical properties, reactivity, and, as mentioned before, their ability to bond. You could say that valence electrons make the atomic world go round. Now to Aiden for demonstrations.
Imagine that these two balls are atoms, and the number on them represents the amount of valence electrons they have, 5 and 3. We're going to combine them, and once we combine them, they become stable, so there's no loose valence electrons floating around.
Anyway, our next topic is ionic bonds. Now, with ionic bonds, we're going to take those little things called valence electrons and forcibly rip them from our cation and add them to our anion. Now, Tyler, describe us some properties of those bonds.
Bonds? Oh, right. Like Mr. Nye was saying, ionic bonds transfer electrons between each other so they can reach a stable state, which, when they have 8 valence electrons, these bonds are between nonmetals and either metals or transition metals. The structure of these bonds will always manifest in the shape of crystal lattice. They have a high melting point because of their strong electrostatic attractions, and they're mostly brittle solids. When they dissolve in water, they become conductive because of the formation of ions. Finally, when naming them, we use a transition metal. You must use Roman numerals to show their charge. And with anions, they must end in an "ide" if it's one element. But if not, it can end in like 8 or 8.
Now to Aiden again.
Ionic.
Alrighty, now that part is over, we can get on to my favorite part, covalent bonds. Covalent molecules are formed when two nonmetals bond. In covalent bonds, the atoms share valence electrons, so they can be stable at 8 electrons.
When naming covalent molecules, it's important that you use the right prefixes. For example, the elements that go into water are one hydrogen and 2 oxygen atoms. Because of this, there is only 1 hydrogen. You can just say hydrogen, but you have to put di before oxygen because there's 2, literally. This gives you hydrogen dioxide, literally.
Well, you don't have to put a prefix before the first molecule if there's just one of it. The second molecule always needs a prefix, even if there is just one of them. In that case, you'd use mono.
Oh, my bad. Now let's talk about some properties. Some properties of covalent bonds include a low melting point, no conductivity, and the sharing of electrons. The reason they share electrons is because they have similar electronegativity. This also results in the other 2 properties that were mentioned previously. Another effect of having similar electronegativities is that the electrons cloud sort of shifts towards this slightly higher charge, because the bonds are that causes the bonds to be polar sometimes if the difference is over like 0.4. These bonds are made of 2 nonmetals, and they're mostly gaseous. And lastly, this type of bond is insoluble, so No dissolving in this bond.
Well, I guess it's structure time. Covalent bonds can take one of 5 shapes, depending on the number of molecules and lone pairs. When it's 2 molecules connected to a center molecule with no lone pairs, it's called linear. When you have 2 molecules with 2 lone pairs on the center, it's a bent molecule. When you have 3 molecules connected to the center without any lone pairs, it's a trigonal planar. But if you add a lone pair to it, it becomes a trigonal pyramidal. Now, when you have 4 connected to the center, it's known as tetrahedral.
Tetris.
Yes, like Tetris. Now to Aiden with demonstrations.
Covalent.
Well, looks like we've come to the end of our show now. I'm glad you took the time out of your day to come and learn about bonding with us.
I guess you could say that was a pretty great bonding experience. Literally, bonding. Get it? Oh no, Mr. I put down the knife!